right, let's get into it. Norris and Renee Neufville, better known as the dynamic R&B duo Zhane, had us all vibing in the 90s with their silky harmonies and unforgettable hits like Hey Mr. DJ. But behind the scenes? Oh honey, there was a whole lot more going on than what those platinum records and glitzy music videos showed us. You see, back then it wasn't all smooth sailing. While they were out here giving us chart-topping hits, Zhane and Renee were navigating the ups and downs of the music industry and figuring out their own paths as artists. Turns out, in the middle of working on their third album, Zhane decided it was time to go solo. Yep, she hit up Renee and was like, "Look, this is what I want to do." And you know what? Renee handled it like a pro. She said, "All right, if this is the move, then we'll keep it classy and quiet." And that's exactly what they did. No mess, no drama, just two artists respecting each other's journey. But trust, the road leading up to that moment, it's full of twists, turns, and a little bit of tea. Let's dive deeper into the real story behind one of the most iconic R&B acts of the 90s. While you're at it, be sure to subscribe for more videos like this. Oh baby, let me tell you about Miss Zhane Norris, straight out of Philadelphia, the city that blessed us with the one and only Patti LaBelle, Music Soul Child, Jill Scott, and Boyz II Men, to name a few. Something magical has to be in that Philly water because Zhane came up in a household where music wasn't just something you listened to, it was life itself. Her father, a pastor, made sure she was in the church choir before she could probably even spell choir. Growing up, my father was the pastor at Second Baptist Church in New Jersey. That's where I had my first musical experiences, Zhane once shared. And let's be real, if you grew up singing in church, you know that's where you either sink or swim vocally. Zhane? Oh, she swam. She swam so well she was practically a prodigy. From the get-go, music was her thing. While the other kids were outside riding bikes or playing tag, Zhane was at home practicing piano and working on her voice. She was that kid in school who was always in the music programs, always ready to snatch a solo at the Christmas concert. If you're wondering where her talent came from, it wasn't just luck. Zhane put in the work from day one. "I had a piano at home and my mom noticed I was always messing around with it," Zhane reminisced. "I remember listening to the Mickey Mouse Club, MICKEYMOUSE, and I went straight to the piano and picked it out by ear. My mom saw that and said, 'Oh, I've got to get her into piano lessons.' That's where it all started. From piano lessons to singing in the children's choir at church, music just became part of who I was. It wasn't just a hobby, I was drawn to it naturally." She wasn't just giving raw talent. Zhane mixed her God-given gift with serious discipline. By the time she hit high school, she wasn't just that girl who sings. She was that girl who's going somewhere. Her love for music wasn't just a phase, it was a calling. "Music has always been the thread running through my life," Zhane explained in an interview. "It started when I was a kid, just like Renee. Thankfully, we both had parents who recognized our passion and nurtured it, putting us in lessons and creating opportunities." Now let's talk about Renee Nell. While Zhane was making waves in Philly, Renee was bringing that international spice with her Jamaican roots and a voice that could stop you in your tracks. "I was born in Jamaica," Renee shared proudly. "Before moving to the States, my mother, Joyce, married my father, Albert Neufville. He was from Portland, Jamaica. My father went to Miko Teachers College, and my mother went to KPH. Eventually, they migrated to the U.S. Renee wasn't just your average talent. She had that island soul coursing through her veins and the discipline of classical training to match. If there's ever been a recipe for greatness, she had all the ingredients. Singing wasn't just something she did. She treated it like her calling. Piano lessons? Check. Music theory classes? Absolutely. And while most kids were glued to Saturday morning cartoons, Renee was deciphering complex jazz harmonies and perfecting her craft. "I started learning music formally at the Brooklyn Academy of Music in the 70s, Renee explained. "My teacher, Mr. Esser, introduced me to the foundations of music. Bach, Beethoven, all the classical greats. Every Saturday, my dad would drive me down Eastern Parkway from Church Avenue to BAM, wait in the lobby, and take me home after my half-hour or 45-minute lesson." And let's talk about her natural gift, This girl wasn't just talented, she was extraordinary. Renee had the kind of voice and skill that made teachers pick up the phone to call her parents, saying, "Your daughter is special." She was that star student who made everyone else in music class break a sweat when it was time for solos. It wasn't just talent, it was undeniable potential. By the time these two powerhouses crossed paths at Temple University's prestigious music program, they weren't just singers. They were full-fledged musicians. They knew their way around music theory, composition, and all the technicalities that separate the good from the great. So, when Zhane and Renee finally met, it wasn't just a casual connection, it was destiny in the making. "We met in college at Temple University in Philadelphia," Renee shared. "We were just hanging out with a group of girls and the radio was on. We kind of started singing together, and that's when we realized we both had a passion for music, played piano, and wrote songs. From there, we started hanging out at the music building, jamming together, and eventually doing little performances around campus. It wasn't some run-of-the-mill girl group situation. This was two highly educated, insanely talented Black women who not only had the skill, but also the know-how to craft timeless music. And when those voices blended together, baby, it was like the universe had aligned just for them. Are we going to change the game? Oh, absolutely. The rest, as they say, is R&B history. But let's not forget, it was their relentless dedication, those countless hours of perfecting their craft, and the unwavering support of their families that laid the foundation for what Zhane would ultimately become. These weren't just artists, they were trailblazers in the making. When Zhane and Renee first signed to Motown and dropped their breakout hit, "Hey Mr. DJ," their world expanded overnight. Suddenly they were on planes to Australia, jetting across Europe, and performing in Japan. These were two young women fresh out of college, now living a whirlwind of new experiences. It was a dream come true, or so it seemed. But here's the tea. The label execs thought they could mold Zhane into another cookie-cutter 90s R&B act. They wanted sparkly outfits, choreographed dance moves, and all the flashy gimmicks that were trending at the time. But Renee and Zhane were not about to let anyone tell them who they should be. "We're musicians first," they said, and they meant it. Rumor has it, those label meetings got heated. Motown wanted to capitalize on their commercial success, but Zhane and Renee had a different vision. They didn't want to lose the jazz-influenced sound that made them unique. While Hey Mr. DJ was lighting up the charts, the real battle was brewing behind the scenes. "You know, our trajectories were different," Renee shared. "I think you were a jazz major in college, and you were doing gigs in Philly, thinking about being a jazz singer." These ladies weren't just R&B singers, they were deeply rooted in the kind of artistry that didn't fit into neat, marketable packages. Their fight to maintain their identity while navigating the pressures of the industry was just getting started. The suits were like, "Give us another Hey Mr. DJ." But Renee and Zhane were in the studio on a whole different vibe, focused on creating timeless art. And let me tell you, those studio sessions were nothing short of legendary. Sources say they were filled with heated debates about the group's creative direction. Renee was fighting to lean harder into their jazz roots, while Zhane tried to bridge the gap, looking for that perfect balance between artistic integrity and commercial success. And don't even get me started on the budget drama. The label wanted blockbuster hits but handed them thrift store budgets to make it happen. It was giving caviar dreams on a ramen noodle budget. And Renee and Zhane weren't having it. They wanted the resources to create something that truly reflected their artistry, but the label? They just wanted another dance floor anthem. By the time their sophomore album, Saturday Night, dropped in '97, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. The label wanted them to compete with the new wave of shiny suit R&B acts flooding the charts. But Zhane, she was like, "We're not about to turn into clones." Word on the street is that there were fiery meetings about marketing strategies and creative control. The label even tried bringing in outside writers to freshen up their sound. But Renee and Zhane held their ground. They weren't about to let anyone dilute their vision. Now here's the juicy part. That split from Motown? Oh, it wasn't the peaceful exit they made it seem. Insiders say the behind-the-scenes drama was intense. Contract disputes, marketing clashes, and a tug-of-war over creative control were all bubbling under the surface. Renee and Zhane were fighting to protect their artistry while the label kept pushing for chart-topping hits. It wasn't a public meltdown, but trust. It was a war behind closed doors. After Zhane decided to step back, both women took a leap into the unpredictable waters of navigating the industry solo. Zhane reflected on her decision, saying, "It was really my choice. I felt ready to return to exploring music on my own terms as an individual. We both had so many musical influences before we came together, and in a group setting, it became challenging to fully express that freedom. After 2 albums in 7 years, I felt it was time to step away and focus on the kind of music I truly wanted to create." But let me tell you, their transition to solo ventures wasn't all glitter and smooth sailing. The music industry can be a cutthroat game, and they had to deal with shady contracts, broken promises, and whispers of division. Folks in the industry were trying to stir the pot, but the thing about Zhane and Renee, they never let the noise get to them. They kept it classy, standing united even as they went their separate ways professionally. Renee shared her take on Zhane's departure. "Well, you know, it's cool because she made that decision back then to pursue a solo career. We were in the middle of working on our 3rd album at the time, and she called me up and said, 'Renee, this is something I really want to do.' I said, 'All right, if that's what you feel, then let's handle this quietly and respectfully.' And that's exactly what we did. There was no drama. We were completely cool about it. While the industry tried to pit them against each other, they refused to play into the narrative. Instead, they left us with a masterclass in grace and mutual respect, proving that sometimes you can part ways and still hold each other down." Let me spill the tea on our Zhane Queen's personal life. Because trust me, there's more to her story than meets the eye. After stepping away from the Zhane spotlight, Zhane found her voice in gospel music. And baby, when I say she found a higher purpose, I mean it. Zhane shared, "During that time, I really had a moment of reflection, and I made the decision to draw closer to God, to seek Him more intentionally. That journey of faith has been the core of what I've done since then. It's a life testimony in every way." While her net worth these days is estimated to be around $500,000, a far cry from the millions they were poised to command during Zhane's peak, Zhane hasn't let that define her. And don't think she's forgotten the shady side of the industry. Oh no, sis knows how to throw subtle shade in interviews, and if you're paying attention, you'll catch those smooth jabs at how things went down back in the day. It's all class, but it's there. Now let's talk about her happily ever after. Zhane, now Zhane Baylor, didn't just find a partner, she found a soulmate in drummer Marcus Baylor. When I tell you this is the ultimate musical power couple, I mean it. They're giving love and harmony a whole new meaning. Zhane gushed, "It's truly a beautiful marriage and partnership because music is so deeply ingrained in both of our lives. My father, Elder Willie G. Baylor Sr., and yes, that name is as official as it sounds, instilled so much in me. And then Marcus, who's worked with incredible groups like the Yellow Jackets, brought his own artistry into the mix. This was truly a match made in musical heaven. And their partnership proves that sometimes life has even better plans than what we imagine." When I tell you Zhane and Marcus Baylor have been out here thriving, I mean it. Together as the Baylor Project, they've been crafting soul-stirring music, raising a beautiful family, and snatching Grammy nominations like they're rare collectibles. Every note they hit is a testament to their love for music and each other. Why don't you come on? And let's talk about their family life. Zhane and Marcus are blessed with beautiful children. The way Zhane juggles motherhood, being a devoted wife, and still serving us flawless vocals is nothing short of inspirational. But she doesn't stop there. She's giving back to the next generation of artists by teaching music. I teach at the Manhattan School of Music in the vocal jazz program. Funny thing is, when someone first asked me about teaching, I was like, "Oh God, no, I didn't even like school." But what I've discovered is that I love it. It's not just about hitting notes or technique. It's about unlocking the person behind the music. It's about helping them find their voice. Come through, multitasking queen. Now let's switch gears to Renee. Sis keeps her business locked down tighter than a family recipe. She's still blessing us with her incredible vocals and making moves behind the scenes, writing and performing her heart out. But don't think Renee hasn't seen the dark side of the industry. She's been open about dealing with shady contracts and sketchy managers that would leave you shook. Yet through it all, she's kept her head high and her personal life private. Sis said, "Y'all can know the music, but you're not about to know all my tea." And honestly, I respect it. Privacy and power go hand in hand. When you see these queens hit the stage today, it's like time stood still. They're still serving face, vocals, and all the energy that made us fall in love with them back in 1994. And let me tell you, they've kept it tight-lipped on any personal struggles. From what we can see, they're aging like the finest of wines. Zhane is out here slaying with the Baylor Project, while Renee pops up every now and then to remind us who's boss. And let's be clear, they've been through the ringer in this industry, but never lost their grace. They ain't had to pull no wild stunts, drag nobody to the studio with a crew, or throw hands at the Soul Train Awards like some other folks we've heard about. Nope. These ladies handled all the industry drama with class, even when label execs were out here testing their patience. Now, for the messy folks in the comments always asking about a reunion tour, stop it. Sometimes sisters need to grow in their own lanes. First of all, we did not fall off the face of the earth, 'cause that's what everybody thinks, like it just up and died. But we are alive and well in living color, and we still look good. It was really my decision to leave. I was just ready creatively to go my own direction and find my voice, to express myself musically the way I needed to. During that time, I got married to my sweetheart, Marcus Baylor. That's his last name, and I took it. He didn't take mine. That's right. And Renee? I just spoke to her maybe 2-3 months ago. She's doing great, married and thriving. These women are out here living their best lives, making music that feeds their spirits instead of chasing trends or clout. And that, my friends, is the real flex. So the next time you're vibing to Groove Thang or Hey Mr. DJ, remember these queens went through it, came out stronger, and stayed true to themselves. And that's your piping hot tea, served with a big helping of respect.